It's a great honor for me to be here at the Empire Club of Canada today, which is arguably the most famous and historically relevant speakers podium to have ever existed in Canada. It has offered its podium to such international luminaries as Winston Churchill, Ronald Reagan, Audrey Hepburn, the Dalai Lama, Indira Gandhi, and closer to home, from Pierre Trudeau to Justin Trudeau. Literally generations of our great nation's leaders, alongside with those of the world's top international diplomats, heads of state, and business and thought leaders.
It is a real honor and a distinct privilege to be invited to speak to the Empire Club of Canada, which has been welcoming international diplomats, leaders in business and in science and in politics. When they stand at that podium, they speak not only to the entire country, but they can speak to the entire world.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Empire Club of Canada. My name is Sal Rabani, and it's an honor to stand before our community both in person and virtually as chair of the Board of Directors of the Empire Club. To formally begin this afternoon, I want to acknowledge that we're gathering today on the traditional and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the homelands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We encourage everyone to learn more about the traditional territory on which you work and live. Today marks the start of Black History Month. Every February, people across Canada participate in events and festivities that honor the legacy of Black peoples. The theme this year is Black Excellence, a heritage to celebrate, a future to build. This is a great reminder for the incredible contributions and the potential Black people are bringing to this country. A week ago, we recognized and celebrated on this stage the Nation Builder of the Year recipient, one of the most inspirational people in Canada, Wes Hall, a supercharged entrepreneur and changemaker, and one of the many incredible Black leaders in Canada. We're also inviting you all to join us on February 28th, the Empire Club of Canada's celebration of Black excellence in history, a panel of inspirational Black women discussing their careers and paths to success. Turning to today's event, if you're a soccer fan, and as I know there are many in this room and online with us today, and so if you are a soccer fan, you know that every 4 years something magical, and something important happens. It's the World Cup. Maybe it takes a bit more time to appreciate its magnitude and importance, especially for the hardcore hockey fans and all of us Canadians, but the World Cup is globally significant. It has existed since 1930, and every 4 years it's a moment of sportsmanship, of celebration, but also a moment of opportunity for the cities and countries hosting it. A warm welcome to our guests today, Giles Gershon, the President and CEO of the Toronto Region Board of Trade, and Victor Montagliani, President of CONCACAF and Vice President of FIFA. We couldn't be in better company to learn what the World Cup 2026 will mean for us and for Toronto. I'd also like to take pause to salute and welcome the many athletes with us today. Thank you for joining us. Your energy, passion, discipline, and determination are a source of inspiration for all of us. Thank you to Toronto High Park FC, the Markham Soccer Club and Alliance United, North Toronto Soccer Club, and the Milton Soccer Club, to name a few, for being here with us today. There are many parallels to be drawn between sport and business, and particularly between soccer and business. Teamwork, innovation, resilience, how soccer teams unite around the goal of scoring as we continue towards achieving our business results. Soccer teams are a unique mix of cultures, talents, and strengths. This is a sport that unites millions of fans across the world. And for me, this idea of unity and teamwork is what stands out the most when I think of the World Cup that's coming to Toronto in 2026. in a world that, in a society, I guess, that's more and more polarized. When I heard that Canada, the United States, and Mexico come together to place a united bid to host the World Cup Games, I thought that to be truly symbolic and powerful. It goes to show that there are many ways for our three countries to work together beyond NAFTA. This will be the first World Cup since 2002 to be hosted by more than one nation, and with 3 countries, 16 cities, 48 teams, more than previous editions, the FIFA World Cup 2026 is expected to be the most inclusive and diverse sporting event ever. Now, I know 2026 seems far away right now as we are barely stepping into 2024. Yet, 2 years from now, Toronto will join Vancouver, the only other Canadian city to host the World Cup, and 14 other major cities in the United States and Mexico, in welcoming thousands of fans and visitors from around the world. These people will come to Toronto for the Games, and this will have direct and indirect benefits for many sectors, especially our hotels and restaurants, the majority of which are all local small and medium-sized businesses, with many struggling right now against a backdrop of weakening demand and economic uncertainty. It's important to look ahead at the opportunities this major competition will open for our city, and also to plan ahead to maximize its economic impact for Toronto. Are there other industries outside the hospitality sector that can scale up or prepare for this activity-generating opportunity that the World Cup will bring? It's a question. Can the business ecosystem come together to better promote any of these opportunities, to build awareness and readiness amongst businesses, and especially among small and medium-sized businesses? The tournament will create jobs and is expected to generate millions of dollars in local GDP, and so should local businesses look at diversifying their offerings, and if yes, in what directions, to respond to these opportunities? And what can the young generation, many in the room today, what can they take from this beyond inspiration and the passion of the game? I look forward to the conversation, and I'm sure that there's a lot to learn and to prepare as a business community between now and 2026. To use a soccer pun, the FIFA World Cup can really kick up a city's economy, and now it's up to us to score its economic goals. The Empire Club of Canada is a not-for-profit organization, and we'd like to take this time to recognize our sponsors who generously support the club and make these events complimentary for our online viewers to attend. Thank you to our lead event sponsors, the Canadian Premier League and Toronto FC. And thank you to our season sponsors, Amazon Web Services, AWS, Bruce Power, and Hydro One. It is now my pleasure to invite Bill Manning, President of the Toronto FC and Toronto Argonauts, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you. Really pleased to be here today. I reminded Victor 5 years ago. Victor came and spoke here, and there's many dignitaries here today and many people involved in the World Cup. But I do want to recognize one individual. If you could give him a round of applause, former Mayor John Tory. This World Cup never would have happened without you. So I have the honor of introducing my friend Victor today. And 5 years ago, when I introduced Victor, I introduced him as Victor Montagliani. And I am a professed manja cake, as my Italian-Canadian friends would call me. And over time learned it's not in the spelling, it's in the pronunciation. So Victor Montagliani is our guest speaker today. He is an amazing man, and over the last 5 years, we've developed a real friendship, and there's 3 things that I've found are really important to this man and what drives him every day. And the first is his family. He's been married over 30 years. He's the proud father of 2 daughters, and for a man who does not have a lot of time, he makes time for his family. And we've talked about that in our private conversations, and that tells you a lot about the person. Second is friends. If you meet someone who's in the world of soccer, they're friends with Victor. And he has more friends than I can count. Everyone in this room, if you meet Victor, he will be your friend. And if you think about the world of sport and the world of business, building alliances, having relationships, these are all things that Victor does because he builds friendships. And that's how you can get a lot done. And so what he did with Canada when he was president here of Canada, he brought a country together to really put the sport in Canada to a world level where we qualify for the World Cup. He's brought CONCACAF together. You know, when Victor took over as CONCACAF president, they were in a lot of trouble. And now he's brought that organization together. And he's built it with friends. And he has many friends along the way. And the third F, family, friends, football. This man loves the sport of football. We call it soccer here, but it is football in his heart. He grew up playing the game. He has a Bruxelles roots, and his father played the game, his brother played the game. He played back when the ethnic clubs ruled the sport of soccer, and some of us who played in those days, you earned your bones by playing with all the different nationalities. And this man did that, and then he had an opportunity to take over as president of Canada Soccer. He was president of BC Soccer, and he challenged our entire country to be better and to shoot for the stars. And now our women's team winds up winning 2 bronze medals, and then the men's team qualified for the World Cup after 36 years. And then he wasn't even the president at that time, but it was what he laid down, the foundation that he laid down for this country. And I see him now doing it with CONCACAF. And he's now representing, I think it's 41 countries, right, in our region. And he's telling South America, he's telling Europe, watch out for us. Watch out for Canada, watch out for the US, watch out for Mexico, watch out for Honduras. And it's his love of football. He loves the sport of football. And so if you can combine a man who has 30 plus years of marriage, a solid foundation with his family, friends all over the world, and a love for the sport of football, you're a unicorn. And so I'm really proud to welcome my friend Victor Montagliani, Giles as well. There'll be a short video, but today, again, this World Cup coming here to Canada in 2026, there's many of us responsible, but Victor is the man most responsible for this World Cup, so thank you.
There we go. Welcome, Victor, to your second tour at the Empire Club. So great to have you here. You're man of the hour. Now, before we dive into your roles at FIFA and CONCACAF, and of course the 2026 World Cup, which everybody wants to hear more about, I think your new friends in the room, this room, would love to hear a little bit more about your story. You're probably Canada's preeminent football fan, soccer fan. Here you are. You grew up in Vancouver. Soccer is a really big part of your life. You played at a high level, Columbus FC in Vancouver, and for 8 years you've been the Canadian at FIFA, and of course you were president of Soccer Canada, as Bill said. Now you're heading CONCACAF as well, you have done for a number of years now, and Canada is hosting. Talk about being in the right role at the right time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, first, thank you, Bill, for your kind words. My mom just phoned me. She says the gnocchi are ready anytime you come to Vancouver. So
got a long way to go.
She appreciates the pronunciation as well. No, I mean, obviously, like many, many immigrants in this country, I grew up with the ball at my feet, really, to be honest with you. And it was really the sport of choice in the family. And this is the beauty about our sport in Canada. It's really... I almost find it ironic in some ways that I'm speaking now after all these years at a place called the Empire Club, and I've spoken to, Board of Trades or whatever, because our sport has never really been a sport of the institution of Canada or governments. Right. It's been a sport of the immigrant, and the immigrant has really driven the sport in this country, And you see it. You see it in their eyes when you talk to them. You see it when they cheer their old countries, when they cheer their new countries, and I grew up in that system, and I grew up in that system, but always knowing that the most important thing to me was the flag, because like most immigrants that come here, they've built this country, and the immigrants have built our sport. And if you look at our players that are on the pitch, they're all sons or daughters of people that came to this country, that, our country embraced them. And now they're giving back by playing for their country. And so for me, that's always been a key driver. For me, sometimes subconsciously, but it's really, for me, being the driver and why the sport it is. And now I think we have an opportunity, and I think the opportunity started a while back, back when I became president in 2012 of Canada Soccer. We recognized early on that the key to the sport was bringing in events. So, we started with the Women's World Cup, which was an incredible event, and the U20s as well, and then obviously bidding and winning for the Men's World Cup. And we know that these events are the events that break down those walls, where you go from being an immigrant sport to a mainstream sport. And so to me, this is the key for 26, is really the sport really grabbing the hearts of all Canadians.
And mainstreaming, as you
And
said.
mainstreaming that. And, it's kind of funny to say that because the president of TFC, probably the best club in the MLS historically, and really changed the landscape and changed the culture in the MLS, who just, introduced me. And then you got the Canadian Premier League, the other sponsor, a league that started in Canada. You think we are mainstream. We're not there yet. And I think this World Cup will be the ultimate kicking down the door.
So maybe a tipping point, right?
I think it will be. I think it will be a tipping point. Yeah.
And when you describe what you've done in your role as a player and as an executive at FIFA and CONCACAF and Soccer Canada, you've got a business background. You're not just a sporting guy. You're not just a football guy. You've got a business background. You've got a significant insurance business that you built.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about that, because I think that's a really important understanding. Who you are and why you've been able to do what you've been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough in my career. I mean, the sport has really given me everything, even how I approach business in terms of creating a team atmosphere, understanding those dynamics in a locker room, and what makes a team strive. And I think that has spilled out into my corporate world. And, I have a great business partner. We built a national brokerage firm, and, from really zero in 2012 to over 400 employees now, coast to coast. And it's a great culture that we have. And so, you learn. And it's the funny thing is, the football world is different. So from the corporate world.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to take, and I see a lot of guys in the football world and the corporate world. There's a few of us in this room that have this dynamic. It's very hard to take what you've learned in the corporate world to bring it to football. Football is a different dynamics.
So culture?
Culture, totally different culture. How people grow up in it. How people look at numbers, it's different. Like your return on equity and your EBITDA is not important in football, okay?
It's the passion, right?
It's not important in football. It's important to a degree, but you look at things different. Valuations are different.
Don't say that to Bill, though. He has.
No, I know. Yeah, well, he's got to win at the end of the day. But there's some things you can bring, obviously, but it's a different dynamics, and you learn that sometimes the hard way in our sport. But it's a different beast altogether.
That's really interesting. I mean, one of the things, when I think to the uninitiated, as you say, it's not a mainstream sport yet. So understanding the international structure of it, we all have heard of FIFA. We all know FIFA, sort of. CONCACAF is not something that sort of trips off the tongue, I have to say. And
trust me, I tried to change the name too, but I couldn't figure it out.
That's your next big objective. But tell us a little bit about CONCACAF, because how Canada got into the World Cup is through CONCACAF.
Correct.
And but a lot of people wouldn't know that or really be aware of that. So it's an important regional entity, right?
Yeah. So we're one of the very few sports that you have to actually qualify for a World Cup. You don't just go. You have to qualify through your confederation. There's 6 in the world. We're one of them. And so we're 41 countries with 41 realities. We have the poorest country in the world, Haiti. We have the richest country in the world, the U.S. We have Montserrat, the smallest population of 5,000 people. And if you ever go watch a game there, 80% of the country's in the stadium. So that's kind of a cool thing.
A big stadium or a small country?
It's a small stadium. Okay. It's awesome, actually. But the reality is that, when I did take over CONCACAF in 2016, kind of 2015 with an emergency committee, and when I took it over, we were morally bankrupt. Just watch Netflix and you'll see that. We were financially bankrupt, literally. And we were football bankrupt, which is probably more important, as important as the other two.
What do you mean by that? Just no.
We had no football.
Yeah.
You know, we had the Gold Cup. We had nothing on the women's side.
No events, really.
No events. We had nothing. No equity in the game. And so we decided to change all that. And the first thing we changed was changing our philosophy to be a football-first organization. And what I mean by that is that every decision you make, right, has to be for the game. And if you don't have that DNA, it's very difficult to push your organization forward. And why? Because everybody wants a piece of this game. There's always agendas, there's always this, there's always that. But if you don't have a football-first mentality, right, you're going to lose your way. And so we changed that. And so what we did is, we built competitions, both on the women's side and obviously on the men's side. We got our Nations League, our club competition, our Gold Cup. We have a W Gold Cup that is starting in a few weeks, which Canada is playing in. And we went from a few hundred games a year to like over 3,000 games a year, right? And all competitions, youth, senior. And by doing that, we got our DNA back. And then we built obviously the commercial side, and we went from bankruptcy to now in 7 years I've been president, we're $1 billion confederation.
So you've done really well with this, but one of the things that, again, as a Canadian, not to be too self-effacing about it, but you think of FIFA and maybe CONCACAF as these sort of impregnable, fortresses of foreigners, of international people, and how does a Canadian elbow their way into the upper reaches of FIFA and become president of CONCACAF? I mean, that's an interesting story. You've done a hell of a lot with it, but I'm sure getting there wasn't as easy as it might think.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I never thought about it. It's never like when I was president of Canada Soccer.
You didn't lie in bed as a kid saying, I want to be president?
I never thought it.
Okay.
No, I never thought to be president of CONCACAF or vice president. Never thought of it. Just was doing what I needed to do in Canada. And then, right time, right place in 2015, the unfortunate incidents of what happened, we all know. I said 2/3 of the executive committee of CONCACAF was escorted to Brooklyn by the DOJ. And there was a room not too dissimilar to this where they collected all 41 countries, and the lawyer...
FIFA did?
No, FIFA, CONCACAF.
CONCACAF, okay.
The lawyer collected all 41 countries and said, we have to have an emergency committee because we have no more leadership. And a couple people stood up. I was there for 5 minutes. The guy says, we have to change the face of this organization. We got to change how it looks. That kid from Canada, you're in. Me, yeah. And literally, I'm not joking. That's exactly how it went. And, like anything, when you do something, you better do it and do it right. And from there, it just continued. And we changed our philosophy. And we went to one CONCACAF because we have 41 countries, but we have 7 in Latin America or in Central America. We have obviously the 3 in the North and 31 in the Caribbean. And nobody ever really came together. And we decided to have a different philosophy, and the results show that obviously in 7 years everybody's bought in. From the powers of U.S. and Mexico, they've bought in to the smallest countries in Caribbean and to the countries in Central America. So, it's not so much how to get in. It's when you have an opportunity, I guess you take it. And I took my opportunity, and obviously the results speak for themselves.
Well, and presumably having the structure that you've talked about and the way you've revved it up in terms of the number of events, that's got to be good for all the national teams. If you've got more events, you've got more opportunities to play. Because I think one of the issues with Canadian soccer was there wasn't a lot of opportunity to play before key matches.
Yeah.
So now you've got more of that. I think you can attribute that to what you've done there.
Yeah, you have more official matches like Nations League, changing World Cup qualifying format, because getting friendlies is not easy. Everybody thinks, just pick up the phone and call a country, get a friendly. It doesn't work that way. And it's getting harder and harder because the other confederations are doing what we're doing. UEFA as well. So getting these friendlies is more difficult. And so having more official games gives you more opportunities to compete.
Now, one of the things about this World Cup that's different, I think, and I think back in, it was 2002, Japan and Korea shared the World Cup, but otherwise it's essentially been a single host event. Here now, as we've said, we've got 3 countries, 16 cities, we're going to have 104 games. This is a very different event in many ways than what's gone before. Tell us a little bit about that, how that
came about.
Emerged,
Yeah, so it's actually the first time the bids have been like co-hosting bids.
Okay.
Because Japan and Korea wasn't a bid together. No, they bid separately. And in the 11th hour,
They came together.
the FIFA executive and the president at the time, Sepp Blatter, said, we'll give it to both of you, share it. But they didn't bid together. This was the first time countries actually bid together. And how it happened was actually, from our Canadian perspective, we're the ones that actually started the United bid. It was Canada.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it was Canada's initiative. And how it happened was, it happened at a restaurant in Vancouver in early 2012, late 2011 with...
Italian restaurant? Or?
Italian restaurant, yes. Wow, good guess.
How did I think of that?
Yeah, so Peter Montagliani, who was the general secretary, was here today, and he's now at FIFA Canada, our chief operating officer. And he was general secretary of Canada Soccer at the time. Myself, I was just about to be president, and a guy named Walter Seibert, who, if you're in the Canadian Olympic circles, a very famous guy. And Walter, who had worked at FIFA for many years, says it's time we bid for the Men's World Cup. Now that you're becoming president, now it's time. I said, I agree with you, let's go. And Peter just went, oh boy, how are we gonna do this? So we kind of put everything together. We were gonna bid alone. We weren't gonna bid together. But we soon realized that, you know what, it might be better to do it together. So actually the first people we talked to were our Mexican friends, because our relationship, I mean, I speak Spanish, so that makes it easier as well. So, and the president at the time of Mexico, very good guy, we spoke, said, what do you think we do it together? And so we went to speak to our American friends, and our American friends said, no, we'll do it ourselves. And they had just lost the bid to Russia for 2018. And so I said, listen, here's your choice. Your choice is you bid again, and you will lose. I will guarantee you will lose, right? Or you do it with us, and you take, 75% of the games or something like that, and you'll win, because I'll bring the maple syrup, the Mexican will bring the churro, and with the maple syrup on the churro, we'll make you guys look a lot better. and that's how it came about.
I went for it. Good for you.
We went for it.
Yeah, well done.
So, and we launched it in 2017, and obviously we won it in 2018. So
really the art of the deal is your book.
Yeah, I would name it something else, but yeah.
But it's very clever. It was very well done. So, you talk about, then how do you divide up the games? Because now you've got 3 hosts, 104 matches, which is, I think, 80 usually, I think, is the...
No, so it was 80 when we bid?
Yeah.
No, when we bid, it was actually 64.
Okay.
Then it became 80, and then...
104, no?
Then it became 104 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of matches, which is great.
Great.
I think Toronto was looking at getting 4 or 5, I think I hear.
That's it.
Well, you have to tell us. That's now, I think on February 4th, we're going to have a reveal of some kind.
On Sunday.
But, here we are in an intimate room here. Surely you can tell us a few things about how we might fare.
Well, you know what Orson Welles used to say, right?
No, I
We'll
don't.
sell no wine until it's time. So we're going to have to wait till Sunday. Obviously, listen, I think, everybody's in a good shape. Toronto's done a great job with sort of putting their front foot forward with the city. So I think we're in a good shape from a Canadian perspective to be in line for some goodies in our basket on Sunday. And, once that's announced, we push forward.
Terrific. And in fact, I think the province is announcing some funding today, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw that earlier, so that's great. Listen, we have the alignment of the government now, and I think it's now time that, we sort of now get the corporate sector to sort of say, hey, let's go. Now is the time. There's 2 years left. And
well, I want to talk to you a bit about that in terms of, obviously this is huge for the city. Bill talked about it, Sal talked about it. There's going to be it's a big boost to the business economy of the city. But here you've got this global game coming to this global city, huge opportunity. What do we have to do to get ready? Because obviously, one of the things about, I guess Bill would even admit that we have an more intimate stadium. Can I use that word? Intimate stadium than other cities. There presumably are some things we're going to need to do to be fully ready for this. Tell us a little bit about that. What do we need to do to be, right on our game in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's obviously the city of Toronto, through FIFA, they have a sort of a commercial package that they're able to sell to various sponsors, and that's all great. and I'm sure they'll do very good with that. But I think here's the opportunity. I'm seeing it in other cities, specifically in the U.S., where the corporate community has basically taken the adage, don't ask me what I can do, don't ask what's the famous JFK quote, right?
Don't ask what the country can do for you, but what you can do
for the country. And this is the same thing. What you can do for your city, obviously for your country, and obviously what you can do for the World Cup. And so a lot of the corporate community is coming on board that way. And whether they get it together in groups, and because it's not just about the games, it's about leading up to the games. It's about reaching out to the communities. Obviously the diversity of this city is incredible. So there's a lot of touch points there. And the great thing about the World Cup now, both the Women's World Cup and the Men's World Cup, although one is women playing it and the other one men playing it, they actually transcend the gender. So you have a lot of men that love the Women's World Cup and watch it and walk around with jerseys of players, and you got the same on the men. And actually the World Cup that changed that was Canada, 2015. That was the first World Cup that transcended the gender in terms of the populace and people being interested in it.
And of course, a great team.
Yeah, and of course that. And so I think so this is an opportunity, I think, for the corporate community to not just, it's not just a line item on your P&L. This is an opportunity to really get engaged on that level. And, I think, listen, you have a lot of smart people in the corporate community. Yeah. I think there's a lot of ways to figure that out. But this is an opportunity, and I've seen it done at many, many cities in the U.S. where they've jumped on board early.
So large groups of companies.
Yeah, there's cities that have raised significant amount of funds to help the public sector, but also engage other communities. So I think there's an opportunity here leading up for the next 2.5 years. And as I said, on Sunday you'll get to know actually crystallize exactly how many games you have, which obviously helps in framing it. Yes, correct.
And then, you think about the fan experience, and I think maybe that's what you're alluding to, the role that business can play in terms of ensuring that the fan experience is the best it can possibly be. Because I think U.S. cities as well are spending a fair bit of time thinking about that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, listen, football went through a crisis in 2015. We all know that. Mm-hmm. And there's two things that saved the game, right? One was the players,
right,
and the second is the fans. Not suits, right? Not governments. There was no bailout. There's two populations that saved football: the players on the pitch and the fans. That's it. And so, in the end, it's our opportunity to engage both of them, obviously, and in this case, the fans, as we move forward here in the next 2.5 years.
Now, the thing, I gather, when you think about watching football, and there's going to be a huge television audience, right? I think 3 billion or more, I think, right? Maybe more than
total for Qatar was, I think, over 5.
So 5 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost everybody in the world. So, so similar thing. So you have massive, massive audience. When you look at the advertising, you think of these large global brands. You see it at the pitch level and in the television ads. But I gather, for the first time, local companies will have some opportunity to get some exposure, global exposure.
Yeah, and that's part of the package that I talked about.
So Toronto companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, listen, we're putting on more than 104 Super Bowls. That's actually what it is. Every game is a Super Bowl or bigger, from a television audience standpoint,
an actual
exposure,
fan, yeah.
and so, which is a massive undertaking. I mean, this is the biggest, not just sporting event in the world, this will be the biggest event in the world. And the city of Toronto and even my city in Vancouver will never, ever, ever have anything remotely close to this.
But what I said, is that true, that there will be an opportunity?
Yes, there is an opportunity,
so.
as I said, with through the city,
okay.
Commercial packages, and then there's other things, obviously, that will come out.
Now, when you get these big international events, and we had the Pan Am Games here not so long ago, everybody jumps to thinking about legacy infrastructure and that you get from it. And the Pan Am Games is quite remarkable here in terms of housing, the UP Express, new sporting infrastructure. I think Qatar also used the World Cup last time in 2022 for significant boost to sporting infrastructure. What do you think Toronto will be doing in terms of using the legacy of these games?
So I think for me,
What would you like to see?
What I like to see is from a legacy standpoint, and you're right. Qatar was a wholly different ball of wax. It's almost like nation building, quite honestly. Russia was even different altogether. So the great thing about here is we don't have to build a stadium, right? Because it's already here. Yes, there's modifications, whatever. But the reality is, I see legacy in a couple of different levels. One is obviously there's legacies from a social responsibility standpoint, and the Federation will be looking at that. Even FIFA will be looking at that. There's the infrastructure, and I know that, for instance, that's already happening. U.S. Soccer has announced a national training center.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't like to put pressure on situations, but I will do it today because this is Canada. I think it's time we get a national training center in Canada.
Does that take a lot? What does that require?
Pitches.
Yeah, okay.
Desire, political will, vision.
All those things.
I could say other words in Spanish that probably are not too nice, but I just think that's what we need. I think it's time. I think it's time we have a place to call our home from a technical standpoint. We're building one at CONCACAF, for instance. We just announced that.
Where's that going to be?
In Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Yeah. Pitches, little stadium. It's really for the youth. It's not for your senior players, although they can train on there. And it's no different than, TFC's got an academy and all that. I think it's time for a national training center. I'll let others figure that out, but I just want to put it out there, and I think it's time. But for me, a legacy is over and above all that. To me, the legacy from our standpoint, from a Canadian standpoint, to me is, that's all hardware, right?
Yeah.
The most important thing for me is the software.
Again, making it
Is this,
yeah.
as they say in Spanish, el corazón. And to me is the most important thing for me as a legacy. The World Cup is so unique, right? And in the sense that I'd say 2/3 of the population in the world relate something in their life to the World Cup. A goal, a moment, hand of God, right? And that was, by the way, the hand of God is dedicated to the English fans in the audience, not the Argentinian ones, because they're happy about it. It's so ingrained in people. And for me, the most important legacy for me, not that those things that I just mentioned are not important, is that the World Cup needs to light the pilot light of our young people. And that when they grow up, sure, I'm not saying they can't cheer for Manchester United or AC Milan, but the jersey closest to their skin needs to be that.
Well, and we've had some success. The women's team in capturing gold in Tokyo in 2020. Yeah. The men's team playing the World Cup for the second time, in qualifying in 2022, first back-to-back appearances, and now this. You've really got a trajectory here that you've got momentum, basically.
Yeah, what I mean by that is when the jersey is the closest jersey to your skin, it doesn't matter if they win gold. It doesn't matter if they qualify for the World Cup. It just doesn't matter. Because it's yours. It's on your skin. Yeah. Win, lose, draw.
It's yours.
Disaster, it's yours. You are the ultimate, this is what you're all about. And you see it in, I've been in 190 countries. I see it in pretty much all of them, right? And this is, to me, the legacy for our country for the World Cup. Obviously, everybody wants to win, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to qualify for a World Cup. But there is a society in Canada that, if you take our men's team, that wasn't successful until 22. There was a core of us that still bled that jersey regardless of the result. Yeah. And what I'm saying is that population has to increase. And to me, that's what I think the World Cup can do, because I think when that's ingrained in a 10, 11, 12-year-old, that never leaves you, right? I guess it's like being a Leafs fan, right? You haven't won a cup since '67, but you're still a Leafs fan. So that's what I'm talking about.
You didn't need to go there.
No, don't worry. Canucks haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1911. We weren't even called the Canucks. So
let's see how we're doing. Well, I think we're out of time, but this has been a fantastic conversation. I just want to thank you for being here and for all the things you've done to make football a national sport. So, and bringing it here. But you've done an amazing job, and we salute you for it. And we'll look forward to having you back at the Empire Club.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor Montagliani and Giles Gershon, for dedicating your time to speak with us today. I'd now like to invite to the stage Mark Noonan, Commissioner of the Canadian Premier League and CEO of Canadian Soccer Business, for the appreciation remarks.
Thank you, Sal. I didn't know there were teleprompters here. I would have probably put this thing on one of the teleprompters. But first of all, I'd like to thank the Empire Club for bringing us all together for a really, really important and special moment. So please give a round of applause to our hosts. I'm standing here not as an individual, but as a member of the Canadian Premier League and Canadian Soccer Business. I couldn't be here without my board of directors. I have my board chairman, Scott Mitchell, here. We have our newest member, Eduardo Pascual, the owner of York United FC, and a brand new member to the Toronto community. So please give them a warm welcome. We have our partners in Canada Soccer, Charmaine Crooks, and we're board members who volunteer their time tirelessly to help build the sport in this country. So great having you all here. And we've heard a lot about Vic. It's hard to follow that conversation. We heard about family and friends and football. And he started talking about it, but the one thing, he's got 41 babies, but he likes one baby the best, and that's Canada. He never, ever forgets where he's from. And you think about his rise beyond Canada into CONCACAF to one of the most powerful and influential people in the most powerful and influential sport in the world. The guy never has forgotten where he comes from. Anytime, anywhere in the world, we need something as this young fledgling league developing. We call, we WhatsApp, we find Victor, he will respond to us, anything that we need. So Victor, thanks for never forgetting where you came from. You know, we all got one of these at our tables today, and it talks about a moment on the world stage. This is the moment on the world stage for Toronto and for Canada. We get one shot at this. The circus is coming down, and probably in our lifetimes, it's never, ever coming back. This is the moment in time that we cannot waste and have to put Canada's best foot forward. So everybody in this room, look around. All of you are stakeholders. You know another word for stakeholder? Salesperson. We are all salespeople of the most beautiful game in the world that's coming to Toronto, one of the great cities in the world. And we need all to think about what sort of legacy do we want to leave? How are we going to unify? How are we going to collectively bring the best of what we have on and off the field to showcase Canada to new Canadians and into the rest of the world? We have one shot here. It is going to get really real come this weekend. When they start announcing games and venues and cities, it's just going to start building. You've got the Copa America coming this year. It is just going to start building and building and building. And everybody in this room needs to jump on that train, do whatever you can as a stakeholder, whatever you can as a salesperson to make Canada shine. Thank you very much. Appreciate you giving me a moment here. And here's to the beautiful game.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks again to all our sponsors for their support and everyone joining us today in person or online. As a club of record, all Empire Club of Canada events are available to watch and listen to on demand on our website. The recording of this event will be available shortly, and everyone registered will receive an email with the link. Join us next week on Thursday, February the 8th for the Empire Club of Canada's annual Financial Outlook event in partnership with TMX. For a dynamic discussion on important emerging topics, providing an opportunity for your organization to get ahead on the issues that will matter in 2024. Thank you for your participation and support. This meeting is now adjourned, and I encourage you to connect for continued networking in the lobby. Thank you.